Well, welcome everybody to the Getting Ready to Teach Pearson Edexcel International GCSE History. This is module 1. There is a module 2 in a couple of weeks' time where we'll be looking at assessment in a lot more detail. I will touch on assessment today, but briefly. So you will have the option to look at that. We'll do a 2-hour session in a few weeks' time. As you've been told, I'm Jacqueline Ackerman. You can call me Jackie. I'm not going to be able to sort of interact too much on the chat. I will in the break have a look, and then hopefully, although we'll be going at some pace today because there's lots to get through, hopefully there'll be some time at the end to go through any questions. If you've got any technical issues, that will be dealt with, but in terms of asking questions on what I'm talking about, obviously I can't stop and do that, but I will look at them later. And you can also ask your local Pearson representative to help. So I would certainly make a note of anything that crops up for you. But we'll be going through a lot today. Before we start, could I ask you though, just in the chat so I can have a look later, just to see who was at the session, can you let me know if you're new to the course, or if you're already teaching, what options are you teaching, or if you've made any decisions on what you're going to teach on paper 1 and paper 2. So if you just pop that into the chat as we get going. While you're doing that, I'm going to run you through the agenda. Okay, so like I said, my name is Jackie Ackerman. I've worked for Pearson for many years now, over 15. I was trying to sort of remember. I think it's more closer to 18 now. But as far as you're concerned, I'm a senior examiner on both paper 1 and paper 2. And if you have been with us before, or you're just coming for a bit of a refresher today anyway, you've probably come across me at some point. Before we start, I will say as well, if anybody is interested in being an examiner, even if you do it briefly, that is a really good bit of CPD that you could do, and it will really help your school. So that's always something to keep an eye on, in case I don't have time to mention that later. So what we'll be doing is looking at the aims of the session on the next slide, and then we'll look in more detail about Pearson Edexcel and what you can expect from them, the support you can expect from them, and why people choose them, really. We'll look at grading, we'll look at the structure of the qualification, and then we'll get into the papers in more detail. So we'll be looking at paper 1 and paper 2 separately, looking at content, very briefly looking at assessment. We'll have a break between papers, only about 5 minutes is all we can really afford, because we've got a lot to get through. And then I'll go through with you the support, which is a lot of support you can expect to get from Pearson. And then hopefully we'll have some time at the end that we can run through some questions. So what I want to do today is make sure by the end of today's session that you fully understand the role of Pearson and the support it's going to provide you. So we'll look at how the qualification's devised. We'll look at all the important stuff, fundamental documentation. We'll review the content of the qualification, and then have a look at how to sort of plan your course, plan your lessons, just give you some options, things that we recommend, and again look at the support that we will offer you, and understand the assessment of the qualification and how to prepare students, which will sort of segue nicely into the course we're going to do in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, so welcome to Pearson. So just really a little bit of information here on Pearson. You might not be familiar with Pearson Edexcel, in which case I would suggest you copy that link that's in the chat box for you, or I think it's probably more likely to be in the resource box. Just really why people choose Pearson, and it gives you some information on who we are and what you can expect, and really look at what we've done over the last 150 years. and have confidence really in the fact that you're with you know, a significant worldwide player in qualifications. So that really, you've got that support to lean back on. Okay. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at understanding exactly what the assessment is. Now, we're the only exam board to offer the choice of modular or linear routes for students taking international GCSE qualifications. So if you're already doing it, you're happy with that linear approach, there's no pressure to move to the modular route. Our linear international GCSEs are, you know, they're continued to be offered and they're taken widely by students around the world. However, if you have come to us because of the modular route, or it's something that you believe will be of benefit to your existing students, might help you to attract more families to your school, we can support you in moving to this route for your selection of subjects. We will be looking at this in a little bit more detail, but you can have a look at the overview on the slide there. So let's have a closer look at the assessment routes. So there's a choice. The modular and linear approach continue the same, you know, they've got the same content. The modular approach actually breaks the journey into 2 units. So you'll have an exam at the end of each unit. If you're already offering linear, that will just stay exactly as it is. So that's going to continue to be offered. It will remain exactly as it is. So that's the choice of your assessment. It's more inclusive. What we've done, we've recently reviewed our specification to identify for more inclusive histories. So as a result of that, we've updated some of the language in our specification. So we've removed any terms that might be problematic. And these changes came into effect September 2023 for the first assessment of 2025. So you will have been sent the documentation on that, and your school will be aware of that. So we're more inclusive. Greater choice and flexibility. There are no compulsory topics, no forbidden combinations. So as teachers, you can choose areas of study that actually you're going to enjoy teaching, and certainly ones that will engage your students for that retention from Key Stage 3. We'll be looking at that in a little bit more detail as we go through. So we're designed for international students. What we've done is ensured that our topics are diverse, they're international. We cover a broad geographical spread. And actually, for those looking to teach something new, we've got some brand new topics that are starting to sort of build up interest. And broad and deepening development of student skills. So if we look at the design of the International GCSE History qualification by Pearson Edexcel, it aims to extend learners' knowledge and understanding. Now, it does this by broadening and deepening skills. So, for example, students are going to explain, analyse and make judgments about historical events and periods studied. They'll use those second-order historical concepts. And we'll talk about that when we're looking at sort of some tips on how you might want to approach your teaching. We'll look at that in a bit more detail. And it also builds on what you've done at Key Stage 3. Students will also use a range of source material. So they'll need to comprehend, they'll need to interpret, they'll need to cross-reference sources. They'll analyse and evaluate historical interpretations. They do that in the context of the you know, the history, the historical events that they're studying. Okay. So let's have a look here at a closer look at paper 1. So the modular and the linear approach, they contain the same content, but what the modular approach does is it breaks the journey into 2 units with an exam at the end of each unit. So like I said, if you're already doing linear, that will continue to be offered. It's going to remain exactly as it is. Students taking the linear approach will have studied all of the content before the exam. So our linear specification is structured in a way that all the topics can be assessed in both exams. Paper 1 and paper 2 can be taken at the same time, which is your linear choice. Paper 1 and paper 2 can be taken different exam series, which is your modular. Just to clarify your choice there. And then I'm sure you've seen these and you know, had some nice department meetings. It's always interesting when you have to make that final decision around what people want, but we are proud of the choice that we've got there. Look at paper 2. Again, exactly the same as what I was saying, you know, the difference between the modular and the linear approach. They both contain the same content. And if you're doing the linear, the students will have studied all of the content to take it at the same time. And then paper 1 and paper 2 can be taken in different exam series if you're doing modular. Okay, so we will look at this in a bit more detail. So you've got one historical investigation from the A1 down to A5, and then one breadth from B1 down to B8. Okay, and that's there's lots of information about this on the website as well. Okay, now you might want to change the way that you teach, and we will look at, like I said, we're going to look at some ideas that we think are some nice tips and tricks for you. But what we're working on at the moment is course planners, schemes of work that are fully editable, and you've got the getting started guides as well. Now they're going to be uploaded to the qualifications website as soon as they're done, so that's happening as we speak. And if you've used Edexcel's planners and their editable schemes of work before, they are really, you know, they're fantastic and they're really helpful, because you can just pick and choose what will support you and what you'll need. Okay. So you might want to sort of make a note of what they're called, but with course planners, editable schemes of works, of course, that's absolutely necessary because you need to adapt those. But the getting started guide is really where you want to go, and that's being updated currently. So you might already have that, but it is being updated as well. So all resources to help you there. Now, there are resets for the modular approach. So if you've got any questions on this, can you refer them to your local Pearson representative and they will help you there. But learners can resit any unit. If they sit it more than once, it's the better of the 2 most recent attempts that will be available for you to aggregate and cash in. I'm going to go through with you how you access all the results when we look at the further support towards the end of today. But they are held in our unit bank for as many years as the specification carries on. But if you've got any further questions on that, like I said, please refer them to your local Pearson rep. Okay. So then let's have a look at the features of the IGCSE. Okay, so I'm sure that you'll know this. Certainly, we're going to have a look at the qualification at a glance here, and I'll go through this with you, and then we'll have a look at the grading as well. And I'm confident that you know that, but it's just a reminder, really. But if we look at the qualification at a glance, there's no forbidden combinations. So with no compulsory topics, there's no forbidden combinations. You can choose what you want, that you enjoy teaching, the topics that you know are going to engage your learners. The international topic choices, we've ensured that these are diverse, they're international. Like I said, they cover a broad geographical spread, and there are lots of brand new topics. So if you're looking to teach something new, that is going to be really good news for you. The question papers are clear and straightforward. This is important, isn't it? So, the question papers, they're clear, they're accessible for all students, all ability ranges, all learning styles, and they're fully accessible. And likewise, our mark schemes are straightforward. The assessment requirements are really clear. And then a broad and deep development of the learner's skills. So learners, they're going to develop the ability through the course to explain, to analyse. They're going to be making judgments about historical events and using those second-order historical concepts, so building on what they've done at Key Stage 3. They're going to use a range of source material, comprehension of source material, they're going to interpret, they're going to cross-reference sources. And then using historical interpretations, they're going to analyse and evaluate them in the context of the historical events that they've studied. So that's really what we've looked at so far, just at a glance for you. And then if we have a look now at the grading system, like I said, I know that you know this. So I'm not going to say too much on this, but basically, we know really the truly outstanding achievement is that grade 9. So that's really to differentiate those top performing students. And then the bottom of grade 7, that aligns with the bottom of a grade A. So it's the same scale though, for both IGCSE and the Homeland GCSE. So that gives a clear comparison. So that is different to the old A star to G grading. So that's good news. So just in case there's anybody that wants to just have a quick look at that, and if there is any questions, you can pop in the chat for later. And then what I'm going to do now is go on to looking at assessment objectives and the examination papers. So we'll go through a brief structure of the exam papers and look at the AOs, the assessment objectives that really underpin that. Okay. So the modular assessment structure offers your learners the flexibility to sit exams when they're ready. It provides opportunities to resit, and they can resit individual unit assessments before they get that overall qualification grade. Okay, and we've got here on this slide the assessment objectives that underpin it. And I know you're aware of these. I know obviously you're aware of these, but it is something, as we're talking about the exams, clearly it's something that's going to be continually addressed throughout. And you'll find this at the beginning of the specification, this very table, actually. Okay, so some of you, I know, are very interested in the teacher choice and the teaching of units. So we're going to have a look at that now. So when you're choosing the options for both papers, several factors can come into play. So if we have a look at this diagram that's on the screen now, I'm sure you've all got experience of choosing topics for teaching. But really, this diagram can help. When you're considering how to choose options for candidates, it's not simply about teaching the content, is it? It's about integrating skills. It's about allowing your students the opportunity to kind of, develop analytical, evaluative skills. So you do have to think about that. It's not just about, oh, I fancy teaching that this time. You really want to ensure that you build on the assessment objectives into your teaching. So some students may find it useful to know. I mean, I found in my teaching, some students find it really useful to really understand the assessment objectives, and for others it just muddied the water and it didn't work at all. So you know your students best, but some of them may well find it useful to know what they are. I really can't emphasize enough, you need to know the mark scheme really well. And that's why, sorry if it sounds like I'm banging a drum, but honestly, and this is my own personal recommendation, I haven't been told to say this to you, but I think if you can try and do a bit of examining, it lit up my teaching. I did it perhaps in, I've been a teacher for nearly 25 years now, but I probably did it about the third year into my teaching, and it changed everything for me. It absolutely made me a much better GCSE teacher and A-level teacher. And I only did the A-level for 1 year just to get that feel, because I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to carry on doing it. Obviously I love the GCSE, and I carried on doing that, which is why I'm talking to you today. But yeah, I think even if the department can just let one person do it, it's worthwhile. But you need to, you need to know this mark scheme inside out. You need a really strong understanding of what's required for candidates to succeed and get that result they deserve. You also want to use the exemplar materials. There's lots of stuff on the website for you. Also, I don't know if any of you were at my talk a couple of weeks ago, and actually I think it's on, I don't think you'll have to watch me, but I think there's a recording of it, so you will get my voice again for it's only an hour. But I went through some feedback, and I talked about the examiner reports in that. So we talked about what a successful candidate did in the summer, and that was really useful for people. So that is on there. You'll be able to go onto the website. The link to it is on there. And I talked about the importance of the examiner reports, and they are really the examiner feedback on it gives a generic overview and then individual questions, strengths and weaknesses. So that will really add to your understanding. It really will. So that's all on the website for you. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's see how we're doing for time. Right, I think we're okay. So if we look at paper 1 now in more detail, so we'll have a look at paper 1 content. going to go over an outline of the spread of options that's available for you to choose. Okay. So you've got a slide there with an overview of the content. Now, please be clear, and I'm sure you are, but you have to teach at least 2. I don't really know any schools that would perhaps teach more, but you know that would be up to you, but at least 2. There's a variety of options, like I said, wide geographical, wide chronological spread. I just really want to reiterate, I've just made some notes on a couple of things that I want to clarify what your students will do from this paper. So they're going to gain knowledge and understanding of the key features and characteristics of historical periods. And they're going to develop skills to analyse and evaluate historical interpretations in the context of the historical events studied. They're going to develop skills to explain, analyse and make judgments about historical events and period studies. They're going to use those second order historical concepts that I've already mentioned. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to just have a think about this, and you might want to put something in the chat for later. I'm not going to be able to look at it right now, but you might want to just or just make a note of something you want to talk about at your department meeting. But just, you know, what criteria are you going to use to make a choice? What do you think would be worth discussing with your colleagues? So I'll just, rather than rush, I'll give you a minute or just over a minute to perhaps jot some things down you want to take back to the department. Okay, so I'm trying to make a bit of time that we can perhaps have a look at some of the questions before break. We'll see how we get on in looking at the so let's have a look. Now, the link on the slide there is where you will find exemplar material. So I'm hoping that's in your resource pack. I haven't got that screen on to be able to check that, but otherwise you could perhaps cut and paste it. But that is where you'll find exemplar materials. The exemplar questions, I believe, are from the French Revolution, which is the first question in the paper. So they've just been taken from there. But if we break that down, I'll just run you through the different question types that are offered in paper 1. And we'll have a look at the breakdown of marks as well. Students have to answer both 1A and 1B. So 1A is worth 6 marks, 1B is worth 8 marks. Now, each question, when you look at your, if you haven't already looked at the mark scheme, it's slightly different to perhaps what you might be used to. Each question has its own generic mark scheme. And in the link that is on the slide and hopefully in your resource pack, it's on page 35. So you'll get the generic mark scheme, and that basically sets out how responses to this type of question are marked generically. And then in addition, there's indicative mark schemes that will offer support for the precise detail that you'll need for specific topics. And what we'll do, can I just point out here, module 2 in a couple of weeks' time, that's going to cover assessment in detail, and I'll go over this in a lot more detail there. I'll go through model answers and marking and all that sort of thing. We're not doing that today. And then students have a choice on the C question of either C1 or C2, and this is the 16 marker. And they will be given stimulus points, but we would want, you know, to get into those top level answers, we will be looking for their own information as well. And you can see there the assessment objectives. So, and like I said, I nearly did it then and started talking about the assessments, but that's not what today's about. But we will be looking at how these are marked and the assessment objectives that underpin them. But you can see there the assessment objective marks. And hopefully you can go and have a good look at the exemplar materials on the website as well. So we'll talk about, in the next session, we'll talk about what examiners are looking for when they're marking these, which will really help with your teaching and the learning for the students. Okay, so let's have a look then at our thoughts on teaching. And, you know, these are just suggestions. I really do want to make that clear to you. They may or may not reflect what you are thinking, but it's just our thoughts, you know, to offer help and things that we've seen works well, you know, what's worked well, and things that we've been given feedback and things that have worked well over the years. I think from my point of view, what I would like to make clear is really, as in, you know, what we'll be looking at in the rest of the course moving on in a couple of weeks' time as well. I think teachers are really effective when they know which historical concepts, which assessment objectives are being addressed in certain elements of the course. Okay, so it's just that, you know, it's just guidance, but I think that's definitely where you'll be more effective. So let's just have a look at some thoughts here. Plan your scheme of work based on the depth studies and consider the chronology of your teaching when you're preparing the scheme of work. So what that will do is give your students ample opportunities to really acquire that knowledge and understanding of the periods that you've selected and, you know, the aspects of history that you're teaching. It's going to allow them to explore significance of historical events, you know, what you're teaching about, people, changes, issues, that sort of thing. So that's the first way I would recommend to approach it. You want to allow your students ample opportunities to access interpretations, get them used to interpretations of events. And then I would break down activities so that your students can understand the impressions of the author. So that is getting taught better and better. And I did, if you go back to the, or if you were at my my presentation a couple of weeks ago, that on feedback from that, you know, I said that that you know, we are impressed with how that is being answered now, and I did give some examples of where, you know, what successful students do well in those impressions answers. But you want to really do activities that so they can understand that. They need to develop an awareness of different interpretations. So they need to really see that this different interpretations have been constructed about whatever it is they're studying, you know, the people, the events, the developments. So just make it very clear that, you know, there are different interpretations, that your students are aware of that. In terms of your teaching focus, I think really you want to allow your students to be able to, that organization and communication, getting their ideas across, to show their knowledge and understanding of history, just practicing lots of that. I think throughout your teaching of the course, you want to consider your focus to be on significant, you know, what's significant, what's changed over time. And you can do that alongside your use of interpretations. So what that does is that allows the pupils to draw conclusions and make historical judgments. So just really finish up on the thoughts on that, and then we could perhaps have a quick look at some of the chat and see what questions people have put in there. Yeah, I think I can't think of I think I've covered all the kind of tips and tricks I've picked up over the years. So just before we go on a break, I think it would be a good idea then if I have a quick look and see in the chat if there's anything that I think would be useful to everybody. So there we go. Thank you to everybody for letting me know what you're teaching. And you've been, if you scroll up, if you arrive later and you want access to the delegate materials, you just need to go to the resources button at the bottom of Zoom. And there's clear information on how to do that if you scroll up to the beginning of the meeting chat as well. And there's a link to the materials from today. So that's fine. So just we've got lots doing Germany. It's one of the popular ones. And Claire has put in an alternative link to the resources if there's a problem. So again, if you scroll down there, you will find that. Hina, the recording will be shared. So it's a shame you're getting disconnected, but it will be, so that you know, you will be able to go back through it. I think you might have to just wait for it to appear, so it might take a day or two. Daisy saying, what is the criteria for marking? So we're going to be talking about marking and assessment in the next presentation in, I think it's the 31st. I will double check that though in a second, but it's a couple of weeks, I think. I'm not sure what you mean by, do we have to taught the material for a certain period of time? Oh, I see. Sorry, you're asking about yourself being a marker. No, as long as you're qualified teacher and you can provide a reference from your school, and I don't think there is. No, I really don't think there is. I apologize, Daisy, if you go on and they say you do have to be marking for a year, but I've not come across that in the past unless that's new. So if you have heard that, it's not my understanding. I think you just have to be, you know, a qualified teacher, able to provide a reference from the school that you're teaching at or have taught at. And I think that's, you know, that's it really. With hopefully the resources there, I see a few of you had problems with that, but hopefully that will be sorted out. Yes, I'm just so yeah. Someone's put in a thought about what they're thinking about the pay. I mean, that's something to talk to your local delegate and let Pearson know. It's not for today, but I do appreciate you with your suggestion there, but obviously that's not for today. So for paper 1 is 2. So so you choose 2 options. Hopefully that explains that. Yeah, I think most people are saying they only have time. And yeah, thank you, Sherry, for saying it helps know. And that's a nice bit of support for people as well. Yeah, I don't know anyone that would do. Yeah, absolutely, Anna. Oh, Linda, it is now my understanding is on the Pearson website, so I think it will certainly be in the getting started perhaps, but if you go onto the IGCSE section, there is a link there to the session. So if you're talking about Edexcel Online, where you'll do it, where you're looking at, I don't quite know what you mean. Are you talking about access to your students' information? I don't quite, I don't know what you mean, Linda, by that, because obviously as one of our centres, you have access to Edexcel Online, but anybody can go and look at the feedback session. Sorry if I've mentioned it numerous times. Sorry if I mentioned it too much. I just think it might be useful. But I think you just need to sort of go onto the Pearson website. You don't need to have a secure login to do that. So John's been answered there. That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to talk about teaching resources at the end of the session, so we'll look at that then. Sorry for people that are having network issues, but it is recorded, so that's good news. Any feedback on finding support and Anything is appreciated to let us know if you have issues finding things. So how many hours a week? So with the schemes of work that we're currently working on, obviously it will depend on how many hours a week your school allow you. So we kind of don't get into saying that. So we don't want to be dictating that. But on the schemes of work that we have, they're editable. So we will offer different. So I think there's about 4 different options you can choose to do it in different ways. So for some of them, it will be condensing things a bit more because you have less time. And then in others where you might have more hours dedicated to it. So you could perhaps go to your, to the SLT and say, well, look, I need this amount of time to get through it. This is the scheme of work that I want to follow. Can I have that many hours? So once the schemes of work are available, and I think they're going to be any day now, you'll be able to go on and do that. Five hours over 2 weeks seems to be fairly common. I mean, 5 or 6. I would that would be, in my experience, the most common. Obviously, the more the better. Let's be honest. There's never enough time, is there? But yeah. Oh wow, Teresa, great doing the Japan module. I would contact either your local representative or if you ask Pearson themselves. I'll give you the links at the end. I've got lots of contact details for you in my last few slides, and ask them. I'm pretty sure though there is going to be a textbook. I think I heard that, but I don't know for definite. But I'm sure they must be looking at that. Now, there's definitely a Vietnam book, so that should be something you can access now. I'm sure that's something that's coming out. Yeah, and it's great that you're all sharing there, so that's fine. Thank you for the link, popping the link on there. And there's textbooks for civil rights and Nazi Germany. Right, so we've got down. I will try and find that for you. If not, if you ask your local Pearson rep, or look at the details that I'm going to give you at the end. So that's fine. Right, so I will come out of that. So that's great. So really nice to see some names there and people really getting supportive with each other. So that's really good. We're going to have a break now, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at paper 2 in more detail, and just really go back. I'll do a quick overview of the aims of today, and then we'll carry on. So I'm just looking at the time there. So if we come back at 2 o'clock, so that gives us a 10-minute break, and I'll see you back at 2 o'clock. I'm going to hang around anyway. If anybody pops anything in the chat or wants to say anything, I'll probably go and grab a quick glass of water, but I will see you at 2 o'clock. No, Leslie, if you mark it, you mark the paper. To be honest, the smaller options that we don't get such a big cohort for, tend to be marked by the senior team. So it tends to be the more popular ones like the Germany civil rights. But you have to mark, you have to be able to mark across a selection. It's probably normally about 4 or 5 on each paper that you would be marking. Yes, Leslie's normally, I can't guarantee what will happen year on year, but last year, the majority of examiners marked Germany, civil rights, superpowers, and Russia. I think that was the 4 ones. And then I think maybe, I think maybe a few of them were asked to do maybe Africa later on, but you wouldn't have to do that. It would just be, it was just those 4 to start with. Okay, so we'll make a start now having a look at paper 2. So let's see, one question's come up in chat, so I'll have a quick look at that. Okay, that's fine, Leslie. Yeah. And I won't be looking at chat now until the end. Okay, but please pop anything in there and we can go through it at the end. So if we have a look at the investigation and the breadth studies, paper 2. So you've got on the slide there, which is focused on section A on the left, section B on the right. And what I'm going to do is do a focus on section A first, so we can have a look at it. I'm sure you've all seen this in the specification booklets anyway. But if you do have any questions, pop it in the chat. So if you look at the slide, you can find further exemplar materials, which will be on the Pearson website. So you should find that link in the resources, or you can cut and paste it. I believe the exemplar questions that are provided are from the historical investigation option, from the origins and course of the First World War. I think the dates for that 1905 to 1918. That, I believe, are the exemplar materials for that. That might change, but currently that's what's there. So actually, there was a couple of things I just wanted to point out on the previous slide. Sorry, apologies for that. Just wanted to make a note of the spread of options that you can choose from. So students have to study one historical investigation from section A and one breadth study in section B. So again, like I've said, you get a clear variety of options here, you know, covering a wide geographical chronological spread. So I know a couple of you have said that you're doing Vietnam. A couple of people, it might have just been one person said they were doing Japan. But there is some, you know, there's some really good stuff. Someone was asking me about what examiners mark. They ask about paper 1. For paper 2 this summer, it was for section A, the First World War, Russia. In fact, it was 1 to 4. They didn't have to mark option 5. And for section B, it was medicine, which is clearly a big one. China, international organizations, and the Middle East. But the big ones are for section A, the big ones are 1 and 3 and 4, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's quite a nice spread actually in section A, to be fair, with East Germany being lower, and section B, medicine is the big one, China. And I really enjoyed the international organizations as well, and that's getting more and more popular. So, but you know, it's hard to choose sometimes when there's, you know, so many good ones. So you've got a lot there. So this paper, if we look at assessment objectives, AO3 and AO4, which paper 1 isn't. And you might want to, I'll just let you sort of make I'll leave this up for a minute in case you've got any issues, any notes, anything about sort of criteria you might want to talk about at your department meetings. I'll let you make a note of that to take back. And then I'll pop on to the next slide. And again, you could make some notes on that as well. Okay. So you know where to find the exemplar questions now. So students must answer questions 1A, 1B, 1C in section A. A is worth 6 marks, B 8 marks, C 16 marks. And I will talk to you at the next session about what examiners are specifically looking for. But students are going to gain knowledge and understanding of the key features and characteristics of historical periods. They're going to develop skills to explain, analyze, and make judgments. That, you know, looking about the historical events that you've been teaching, the periods that they've been studying, using those second order historical concepts that we've already mentioned. They're going to learn how to use a range of source material. They're going to need to comprehend that, interpret, cross-reference sources. And they're going to develop skills to analyze and evaluate historical interpretations in the context of the events studied. If we look at this breakdown of marks, make sure that, you know, you really link your teaching to the assessment objectives. And if you remember, I talked to you about generic mark schemes before. Again, this will be clearer next time, but each question has its own generic mark scheme. That's page 35 of the link, if you want to make a note. And that sets out how responses for this type of question are marked. So you'll get that for each question, that generic mark scheme. And then in addition to that, you have indicative mark schemes, and that will give you, that will offer support for the precise detail that's needed for the specific topics. But you'll use them, they're kind of hand in glove. You'll use them. You need that generic mark scheme, and then you'll need the individual mark schemes to look for that support, that specific, precise support that you'll need. So, like I said, module 2 is going to cover assessment in detail. I'll go through model answers with you and how to mark them. So, but you've got sample assessment materials here. Okay. Now, the examples here are from the Breadth Study and Change America, I believe that's 1783 to 1877. So it's the question 1. I think they've just taken from question 1 from the papers. And again, students answer A, B, and C, and they have a choice, C1 or C2 in section B. And I will go through what examiners are looking for. In module 2, and you can cut and paste them and have a look at some sample assessment materials for that. Okay. So our thoughts on teaching, you know, what you could focus on. Here. You need to perhaps focus more on the overarching themes of the key topics. So if you go through the specification, I think it starts on page 24, and just really have a look at those. Your students are going to be expected in the exam, they're going to be expected to explain causes and consequence. So, you know, you're going to be looking, as well as cause and consequence, you're going to be looking at significance and change, but they are going to be expected to explain these. So if you focus, and you're teaching, if you focus on change over time and the causes of the change, that's going to have a strong impact when you're teaching thematically. Yeah. So I'll just say that again. So if you focus more on the overarching themes, have a real good look through the specification. The bit I'm talking about here starts on page 24. And your students are going to be expected to explain cause and consequence as well as significance of change. So focusing on change over time and the causes of the change, that's going to have a really strong impact when teaching thematically. Your students are also going to be expected to demonstrate that show that they can evaluate. They are going to need to demonstrate judgment. They'll be expected to show clear judgment about specific events and periods. So to get those really top level answers, and I don't want to sort of go off on looking at assessment here, but those top level answers need to be supported with the historical knowledge that is precisely chosen. So we'll look at that next time. But they are going to need to evaluate, make judgments, support that with historical knowledge. And the support from our website about different activities is really useful as well. I mean, this one just gives a suggestion of hot seating, followed by writing up a judgment or a conclusion. But there are lots of, in the scheme of work, the different schemes of work give lots and lots of activity suggestions. And it is all suggestions. Like I said, they're fully editable. So think of things that I think are really good for this. Yeah, I like hot seating. I also like group debates. That really helps to develop when you're working on evaluation. Perhaps doing some following that up by writing out conclusions, peer marking the write-up, and these are all things that work really well. So let me show, I could give you a little bit of time there if you want to sort of perhaps in the chat share some of the things that you find useful. I'll just give you a couple of minutes. We've got time. So I'll give you a couple of minutes in the chat if you want to perhaps share activities that you found helpful. I think that can help each other, can't it? And it's nice to sort of share and be supportive. Okay. Now, I know you're going to find this useful. I want to go through in lots of detail the support that you can get from Pearson, what you should expect to be getting now. There's lots of free online materials and paid for resources as well. So I'm going to go through all of that, talk to you about Results Plus and Exam Wizard. Because if you're new to this, it's all really super useful stuff, but you need to know that it's there and how to access it. So I would definitely now grab your pen and bit of paper. But also, you know, you're going to have a copy of this, so you'll be able to go back and look back on it anyway. But let's have a look what support you can now expect. Okay, so this is just an overview of what I'm going to be looking at here. So we don't, you know, we do offer advice for elsewhere as well. If resources are not available from Pearson, the paid for books, we will recommend them from elsewhere. But we do also provide a lot of free online support, online materials for you. So you certainly want to look at the Getting Started guide. We offer the training events, and they're recorded as well, so you'll be able to access the recordings. I'm going to talk to you about Mark Batty, the subject advisor, and the support that you can get there. There's community forums where, you know, you can ask questions, get support from other people that are doing the same as you. The schemes of work, like I said, they're being updated and prepared currently. Skills mapping to help you with your planning and supporting your students. The sample assessment materials are there. You know, there's also past paper questions and mark schemes as well. But the sample assessment materials, you've had the links today for those, and the examiner reports, which I've already mentioned. All of these are invaluable. Okay. So you do need to get yourself, you know, familiar with the website, because there are a number of resources that are available on the website. So I'm going to just talk through this. The web page that I've shown you here has got 4 tabs. So you've got the specification and the sample assessment materials. You've got exam materials. So there's lots of documents there, things like past papers, mark schemes, examiner reports. You'll be able to access all of those there. There's all the kind of administration stuff, all the forms, any documents to help with the admin will be there. And obviously your exam officer will be able to help you with all that as well. Now, the really good stuff, the teaching and learning materials, so that will give you more exemplars, that will give you lesson plans, that will give you course planner. Lots of things are being added all the time there, so that's going to really help there. So basically, we're continually adding to this bank of materials all of the time. So just let you have a little look at that and see if you've got any questions that you might want to ask in the chat. And I'll go through a few of these things, like, for example, Mark Batty. I'll talk to you a little bit about him a bit more anyway, in a bit more detail. Okay, so before I come off the page, just remember this is from the website. So that's the web page on the website. So, I really recommend this page, very useful. Okay, let's talk about Results Plus. So Results Plus is our free online results analysis tool for you. Gives you a detailed breakdown of your students' performance. Yeah, in all of the exams that they sat with us. So what that's going to do, it's going to help you to identify topics, identify skills where your students could benefit from further learning. It's going to help them gain a deeper understanding of their subject. So it's basically, it's this incredible tool that I think you're going to find really useful in giving you some nice, clear analysis of your students, and also help you sort of analyze your own teaching performance as well, and just, reflect and build on. So using Results Plus, you can basically see in-depth data on the performance of an individual candidate. You can see a class, or you can see the school in reference to the cohort. You can use this to see which questions, which spec points pupils have performed well in, what they've not done well in. And then you can use this to help, your choices in revision, in, resits, if you're going down that route, and then obviously your own future classroom teaching. So it's free. You just can set it up. You can do mock exam results to produce analysis. If you've got a student that's come from another school, as long as they were doing Pearson, obviously, you can track that. But it basically gives you full support there, and it's really easy to sign up to. So you've got a link there if you want to, hopefully that's in your resources, but if not, you can cut and paste that, and sign up for that. It could be that your exam officer's already done that, so you can, speak to them about that. Just a little bit more information on Results Plus. I'm sure some of you have come across it before anyway, but it's free. It's all online, and it really does give you that deep insight into your exam, your students' exam performance. So it's been around a while now. It was developed in 2007, and basically we kind of looked at how we could modernize the exam marking process. So Pearson brought over something called ePen. So if you're an examiner or you're going to be an examiner, that would be something that you either are already familiar with or you will get familiar with. So ePen is technology that is based from the United States. So how does it work then? Let's have a look. So currently, students take their exam in the traditional paper-based way, as you can see there, and then the papers are sent to be scanned. So these machines, it's quite small, perhaps on your screen there. It's a formidable big building. I mean, I think these sort of machines all working together are something like the size of 5 football pitches. But it's basically a central processing center. So they're just scanned through these machines. And so when you're an examiner, you can see the examiner there looking at his screen there. But what he'll be looking at is just a page. So examiners don't get to mark not normally. There are exceptions where a paper might not be able to be scanned, but the majority of them are scanned in these machines, and then you will just answer a set of questions. So you will just do all question 1 or all question 2. You won't be marking the whole paper for that candidate, and that's a much more effective way for everybody of assessing. So basically, to sum that up, so just because I am aware that some of you won't be doing the units when you've been doing something for a long time, I don't want to make assumptions that you'll get what I mean. So the exam papers are scanned, and then electronic copies of the candidate's paper is sent to an examiner. So what that allows Pearson to do is send particular questions from the same paper to go to different examiners. So different examiners will get different things depending on their expertise and their level of an examiner, but they'll basically be marked on a screen digitally. So you will mark it on the screen and then enter the marks. And there's a real, tracking system. It's there's examiners, team leaders, senior team leaders, etc. But what we do, once it's been marked, we consolidate all that data into a central system, and then the performance reports are shared with you. So you can see how valuable this is for you as as a classroom teacher. Okay, now let's look at Exam Wizard. So this is another tool. So it's free, and it's going to help you with quick homework assignments, tests, mock exams. It's basically something that you're going to find really useful in producing work to help your students, when they're studying for their exams. So you're going to be able to produce exercises, you're going to be able to produce past paper questions, you're going to be able to do classroom tests. And what Exam Wizard does is it uses lots of questions from past papers. So every series of exams, the bank of potential questions grows. So it will depend on what you select within the Exam Wizard, but the potential to produce, bespoke questions, it all depends on what you're selecting to test. But also, so you'll feed in information on the unit, the topic, or what the assessment objective is that you're wanting to do. And then, or you might simply want to go and choose a whole past paper. But what that means is then you can use existing mark schemes, which is going to make your marking accurate. You're going to be able to use the examiner report, which is going to give you insight into that paper. Exam Wizard is going to use more recent or the most recent exam content is going to be available sooner. And use results to understand where your students are going to need more support. So it's really going to help with your teaching reflection, your teaching strategies, and how you're going to move forward with your class. So again, this is a free tool for you to use. Okay, access to scripts. Now, this is going to certainly be something you're going to love and want to know a little bit more about. So, access to scripts. So if you see ATS, that's basically what that means. It's an online portal, again, free, and it allows you to immediately access the electronically marked exam papers. You know, if some have been held up, you'd be told that straight away. But like I said, the majority of the papers are marked using the system that I've just gone through. They're marked electronically, and you are going to have immediate access to them from results day. So as soon as the results are out, you have got immediate access to this. So it provides enhanced transparency. It offers that transparent approach to the marking process. So we get a better understanding of marking before the inquiry about results are made. So what this service by Pearson does is it cuts down on any kind of speculative inquiry about results, because you've got the time as a school, you've got the time to look at all this information, so your decision will be far more informed. So what actually is it? Well, it's a service that allows you to see your students' marked exam paper free of charge. Now, it's available free for all qualifications, and you will access that through Edexcel online. So you need to have all that set up. I believe that's probably through your exam officer, but speak to them. I know somebody mentioned that earlier, but it's you all, you know, as a Edexcel school, you all have Edexcel online. So you will need to access, you can only access ATS through that. They do not have annotation on them. So you will just see the mark and the student answer. Now, currently we're the only awarding organisation that offers this service free of charge. So you can use ATS alongside Results Prep, which is our free online results analysis tool. So you're going to have a really detailed breakdown of your students' performance in the Edexcel exams. So by using both of these services, that's going to help you identify topics and skills where your students could benefit from further learning. So it's really going to help them gain a deeper understanding of their subject. So you can find out more about access to scripts and take a look. There is a user guide that takes you through the process step by step. So just go to quals.pearson.com, which I think will be part of in your resource pack, but I'll just say that again. In fact, what I could do is perhaps type it in the chat for you. That might be easier. So I believe you can find it here. I think it was 2017 ATS. I think, yeah. If you've got a different one in the resource pack, use that one. But the one that I've just put in the chat is the last time I looked is the user guide that takes you through the process of ATS step by step. But if that one doesn't work, just ask Pearson So just send a message to Pearson. But there is a detailed guide, and it's, you know, it's all free. So on the slide, it does say, so for more information about ATS and post results, just look at the post results pages on the website. So you might find a link to that there as well. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you have been asking for resources. So I'm going to talk to you about Pearson published resources. And these resources are designed for anyone following the IGCSE history. So teachers and learners who want the best preparation, you know, they want exam success, they're looking to progress to A-level, etc. So please have a look. There are samples, you can get more information, see different samples on the Pearson.com International Schools. So that will have them. This one here is the question 1 from section A of paper 2, I believe. So this is the First World War, but you can look at all sorts on there, and I know, you know, other people do, and certainly shop around and find other people are providing resources as well. But these ones, the Pearson published ones, are specifically developed for international learners. So they've got the content is all appropriate for the particular paper that they're doing. So they're very focused on the 9-1, you know, it's globally recognized now, this 9-1 grading scale. So this grading scale is going to allow your learners to achieve their full potential, and these resources will support that, you know, especially if they're going to progress, if they want to look at their options for progression. What the student book does, so there is teacher books, so this is an example of a student book on here, but so what the student book does is it comes with an active book. So the active book gives you 3-year access to the digital version of the student book. So you access that online anytime from anywhere. So, and that basically can be used, you know, to support their learning outside of the classroom. The online teacher resource pack provides further planning. It gives teacher and assessment support. There's lots of signposts for students as well that are looking for progression to higher education. So they can understand. It's really, as they're working through the books, they can understand, they can engage with the skills that they're gaining. And also there's embedded transferable skills throughout as well. The Pearson books are reviewed by a language specialist, and the reason we do that is to ensure that the book is clear, it's accessible. So the style it's written in is clear, accessible. There's glossaries to every resource includes a glossary of specialist vocabulary in them. And there will be more being added all the time there as well. Now, if you do have any questions, you can always email Mark. So he is your subject advisor. It would be really useful to you to sign up to his updates. So you do have, so there's a picture of Mark and his details on the website. So you'll see it's just like this. So this is basically being snipped from that. So it will look exactly like this. So you can sign up. I would definitely recommend signing up to the online form. But you can also join the online community, which really helps you support each other. So that's basically Mark's role. He's there to keep you informed, keep you very aware of any updates, and provide support when you need it. So you can click on the link to email him, or there's a live chat where somebody will be able to respond to you and take your query where it needs to go if they're not able to deal with it. So that is super useful, and that is on the specification, one of the I believe it's early on, but it could be, it's either early on or at the end. I'm not, sometimes it changes, you know, I've seen it in both places, so currently I'm not that sure. So let's then see if we've got any questions. So we've got time for questions. So I'm going to have a look what we've got. So I've put that there. So Linda, I can't sort of comment on that because I haven't seen that in all honesty. So that would be something and I would recommend that you let us know about that. So if that is the case, you need to let Pearson know. So I would let Mark Batty know that. So the link for the online form and the online community, so I'm unable to download the resources. I've tried on multiple. Oh, I see. I don't know. Claire, are you able to help with that? Because we've got somebody that's unable to download the resources. They've tried on multiple browsers. I'm not sure, you know, they're there. I'm not sure what we can do about that, to be honest. The online form and the online community is on. If you go onto the specification, it will be, I think, at the beginning of that or at the end. And also Mark Batty is his name. If I go back to the slide on him, it's on the screen now. So you've got all the details there. And if you go onto the website, you'll be able to click onto the online form and to the community. It will be on the online page that you'll be able to click onto. Oh, Leon, thank you. So any feedback on how the structure of the exam paper, obviously that's not for today. So that would be something to perhaps talk to Mark Batty or let somebody at Pearson know your thoughts. Okay, so Mark's information is on the screen now. I'll leave it for another minute, just see if anybody has got any further questions. And I would certainly recommend you joining the online community. I think they're really helpful. Just, you know, supporting each other as you go, because you're the ones going through the course, you're the ones doing the teaching, and it's your students doing the learning. So that's always really, really helpful. So if there are any final questions, please pop them in the chat and we can have a look at them. I haven't heard that they're going to do the walkthroughs. When you say they're exam walkthroughs, have you seen, are they specifically on On Pearson Edexcel, I haven't actually seen those. I know some people, some teachers do walkthroughs on YouTube, etc. But I don't have any information about that. But certainly it could be something you could ask, definitely. Right. So if they're on the Edexcel site, definitely what I would recommend you asking for them, because if the more people asking for them, the more likely they are to do. Kelly, they just get the final cash in and get the overall results. If you're talking about, you know, if they were to take their qualifications anywhere on the actual the breakdown would, but the actual overall certificate wouldn't. So just been asked about the modular route. Do papers need to be sat in a particular way? Oh, right. No, you wouldn't be able to do that. So you'd resit a question from paper one and you'd resit. So you would need to, that would need to be sat separately. We wouldn't combine a paper one and a paper two in one sitting, if that's what you were asking. Okay. Well, we've got through everything. There's lots of information that I've given you there. If there are any questions that you come up with, and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked that. Obviously, you've been given all the information now about who to contact or where to contact. And if you do have any questions now, I'm going to hang around for a little bit anyway, so I'll be able to answer those for you. And I hope you're all able to come to the assessment module 2, where we'll actually go through how to support your students by, you know, giving them really good feedback on the questions that they're asking or they're answering for you. Right, so I'm just trying to get my chat up now. Yeah, so you're able to do that in that way. Sorry, I thought you were trying to say that you were sitting them as a paper, which did sound odd. So I realize what you're saying now. Yes, you can. Well, it's been really nice meeting you. If you've got all your information now and you've been able to download everything, you're free to go. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Oh, let me just check. Let me just check for you the date for that. So I said that would check the date that was on. Yes, it's Thursday, the 31st of October, the same time. And yeah, so that's fine. So Thursday, the 31st at 1 p.m. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.